Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we have a team report from the Pittsburgh Regional Championships, and I am joined by Rajan. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm happy to be here. Um, Happy to be on the channel with something that I did as opposed to something I watched. And I'm just overall pretty happy to be here, minus the whole Reg D part. But other than that, pretty happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Great to have you. First time with the team since I think Series 10, maybe.
First time with a team since that Drifblim one, yeah.
The Drifblim one was cool. You are known for building some cool teams, so this time, this format maybe not the most conducive towards building cool teams, but you definitely had some cool techs on a more standard team. So I want to talk about that for
hmm
anyone who wants to know how to team build like Rajan.
That's true. All the Super Maniacs want to be like me. I do know that. That is just like a true fact, true feeling.
I want to be like you.
Every single Super Maniac wants to be like me, including those that leave YouTube comments.
Um, that let's talk about the team you used at Pittsburgh Regionals. So tell me about got some cool sets here despite a relatively standard looking team. Talk to me about your team building process.
Absolutely. So it all began at 4 or 5 p.m. the day before Pittsburgh Regional. That's not actually true, but what really happened and going into Pittsburgh, I was rolling off of a 0-3 drop at Worlds. I had a phenomenal trip at Worlds. Japan was amazing. I spent a lot of time with Adi, so despite that, the trip was incredible. Um, and the team I was using at Worlds was one that I worked on with my really good friend Nick Nabar. It was a Combine Fluttermane team with Draining Kiss Fluttermane, and we built around that with Citrus Berry Landorus T, Gastrodon, unfortunately, but because of Urshifu, it was necessary. We had a lot of cool sets and a lot of cool things going on. And despite my 0-3 drop, Nails top cut the tournament at World. And the team was cool. But unfortunately, I was not really convinced about it going into Pittsburgh. There was only a couple weeks between Worlds and Pittsburgh. I hated the format. I was busy at work. I wasn't enjoying building anything. And the only laddering I was doing was with this team. And like I was holding on to the 1700s for dear life. I was pretty convinced I would go like 5-4 or 6-3 tops at the regional. And that's not really something I was excited about driving to do. But I didn't really have anything else better until I just said, fuck it, we ball. I didn't really feel like using this at all. And I built something a little bit in the car ride before, the day before the tournament, as I have done on a number of occasions. And it's a habit I've been trying to break, but I haven't been trying that hard, I guess. But I was working on it the day before. I had a little bit of inspiration from something. I was doing a lot of big data before and was helping me, or after Worlds, was helping myself like make discoveries about the format. That was something I forgot to prep you about, Adi. But I was playing a lot with the Top Cut Explore Worlds thing and trying to like in my building try to incorporate things and concepts and trends that were doing well. It helped me come to, despite seeing so many of them at Pittsburgh, it made me think that Scarf Landorus was a terrible Pokemon because it had like 20 shots on goal or something. It had like 15, 20 shots on goal day two worlds and only one converted. Or things like Citrus Amoonguss being better than Rocky Helmet because it had like over 2.5, almost 3 times the conversion rate than Rocky Helmet did, like things like that. So I was looking at trends. One thing that really caught my eye was something that we had talked about internally with some friends. Was this Sun team that some people were using, including Anthony Liozzo. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, so I apologize. Um, that Top Cut Worlds. And the basis for the team being a really cool idea was that you can just successfully lead Tornadus Fluttermane in the format, press Sunny D Terra Fairy attacks into a lot of the Pokemon that are common in this format, and just kill them. And Sun plus Flutter was not unique to Worlds and was not unique to the year, but it was a good confirmation that it can still do well. And some of my points and better finishes throughout the year have been with Sunny Day Murkrow plus Specs Fluttermane. So I thought I could build something with those two Pokemon and have enough experience having played it in the past and knowing what I like to do with it um, to be successful at the tournament, or at the very least more successful than if I was running Combine Flutter. So I started by completely net decking the Tornadus that this team used, as well as putting it next to a Choice Specs Fluttermane. I really liked the Tornadus set as was, and I didn't think Taunt was necessary, and I liked Mental Herb, and I liked those three moves, and I think Protect on your Tailwind setter is really broken, like with the Thornburg Life Orb Talonflame team that I had recently used at Nats for a top 64 finish. So I was really convinced by those two Pokemon. And basically, I was trying to do what I thought was strong while building off of that core, was essentially where I was at. Um, the biggest change and branch in the team from there was they used Life Orb Heatran. My friends that played them, they weren't really switching to Heatran that often, despite that being something that Torn Flutter threatens really hard. And one of the reasons I thought they weren't switching to Heatran is because Life Orb Heatran gets OHKO'd by Specs Dark Pulse from Chiyu and like takes a billion trillion damage for no reason. And I was very convinced that Assault Vest Heatran was a really, really strong call going into Pittsburgh because it's bulky, it's fat, it gets a boost from the sun, it's strong in that way, it has great typing. But I didn't want to be Terra Grass because that is just Drain Punch fodder from Iron Hands. I wanted to be Terra Fairy, which walls Drain Punch, which takes negative damage from Heavy Slam, even when it's Terra'd, and forces them to Wild Charge, because that just contributes to the recoil that Iron Hands is taking. And I was pretty sold on Tornadus, Fluttermane, Assault Vest Heatran, and I was building from there. We're not really looking at my team at the moment. I don't know if that's something you want to be doing now. So those are the three Pokemon that were my mons 1, 2, and 3: Torn, Flutter, Heatran. And in my head, that's kind of a lot like, just starting with your Sunny Day Murkrow, having your Choice Specs Fluttermane, and having having your Fire type. Like that just made sense to me. After that, the next Pokemon that I added was Landorus. I did not really understand, especially the day before the tournament, the Ursaluna Farigarath part of the French Sun team, and I thought that Landorus T would give me a lot more value into things like Iron Hands, as well as slowing down Arcanine, Hisuian, Rillaboom, Chien Pao related teams. And there's just a lot of physical attackers in the format that aren't named Urshifu, and I really valued having Intimidate, and I really valued having Taunt for opposing Trick Room, because I was pretty convinced that Imprison Farigarath was a terrible solution to Trick Room. And I was pretty convinced that Taunt was really helpful, especially with Landorus plus Torn, where you can Protect plus Taunt something, and then set up a Tailwind or Sunny Day as you U-turn into Fluttermane, and now that slot is taunted, so you can just kill it with the Fluttermane. I just thought those were really cool interactions. And the Landorus was something I was familiar with because it was on the Worlds team that Nick Navarre used and that I helped him build. I really liked the set from Worlds, and I was pretty happy with it. So those are the four that I had. I did just not understand how to build the team out from there, and only had 4 hours at that point to do it, from start to finish. So I did kind of sort of just net deck the Urshifu that the French Sun team was using. I'm sorry if it's also kind of offensive to be calling it the French Sun team. That's just kind of how we've been calling it among our friends this whole time, and it's been stuck in my head. But the team that Anthony Liozzo piloted, I did just net deck the Urshifu. Urshifu seemed really strong to capitalize on Tailwind turns, and felt like it was the better Urshifu than Water because I wanted Sun to be up all the time. My philosophy for the team was Fluttermane is broken and Sunny Day is broken, and I want to Terra my Fluttermane 6 times out of 10. Heatran is really cool, and I want to tear it the other like 3 times, but all of them are balanced by like all of them are broken with Sun Up. So Urshifu Water didn't really make sense for tempo purposes, and Urshifu Dark just like blows up with Tailwind turns really well, and it's just stupid strong, and the priority is better than Aqua Jet for the purposes of this team. So that was the 5 I had, and I was pretty sold. And then I spent a long time thinking about Mon 6, and I eventually put Farigiraf on the team like they did, but then deleted it because I think that Mon sucks. And put Cresselia on. I don't really have many thoughts about the Cresselia besides Helping Hand is cool. Lunar Blessing wasn't that good for the team. I thought Trick Room or reversing Trick Room would give me the option to play a balanced team with Lando, Heatran, Cresselia, Urshifu sometimes. And the main idea was Safety Goggles Cresselia being able to be 1 point faster than my Assault Vest Heatran, and then outrunning it and pressing Lunar Blessing to help with Spore and out damage and out trade Amoonguss, Iron Hands, things of that nature with Terra Fairy. So that was how the team got built. It wasn't very polished, it wasn't very refined, but I'm really proud of it for like a 5 hour effort the day before the regional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, you took a really powerful concept that you saw at Worlds, and I think you
that I was somewhat familiar
made,
with too
mm-hmm.
from previous iterations of Zen teams that throughout the year.
Yeah, and so again, a lot of the sets are pretty standard. You've talked about the Landorus and how it's, I guess, a little bit of a comfort pick, but did you want to talk about the Landorus set a little more? Because this is, I think, the
Yeah,
first time
I
most
can
people
go
have seen
through
it.
the set specifically. There's a couple things that I wouldn't necessarily say sets are just that standard. One thing that I myself have always had a problem with is just using the best Pokemon. In that I've always liked to build my teams, and I don't mean to say that I'm a special snowflake, but at least in the years that I've been the most successful, I've always been able to build that were somewhat ahead of the curve
You
and
were
use them.
offended when I said that some of the sets look standard.
I mean, no, I'm trying to explain
Don't you?
like something I'm happy with. That I'm happy with. So like I've always been someone who thought he was able to build teams that were ahead of the curve, and was something that like I figured out before a lot of other people did. And I really pride myself on a lot of the teams that I built, especially in 17 and 18. Unfortunately, as the power levels of Pokemon increased in the formats that I was experiencing, I wasn't feeling that I was succeeding at doing that, and it was really bumming me out. And it kind of transformed me trying to build good teams to perhaps conflating like building teams with choices that are suboptimal with building teams that are meta calls, if that makes sense. And I hadn't really successfully built that many good teams in a while. Um, Standout exceptions include the Comfy Gudra, Magnezone, Togekiss. Not we didn't have a Togekiss, like Rillaboom Perish team with Lapras and Incineroar from a Series 6, I think. Series 5? Which
Series
series was
5.
that?
Series 5. We also
From
built a
Series
Series 6 team.
5. Right. I like a standout exceptions are like some Dynamax teams from Series 5 and from Series 6. And like the team that a lot of my friends and I built and used at San Diego that was featured at a team report um on this channel. But I put a lot of shots on goal that just haven't been really good. And I think some of that can be attributed to my inability or unwillingness to use the Pokemon that other people were using because I wanted to be ahead of the meta as opposed to using the meta. And a lot of being hard on myself for not being as successful as I have in the past. And something that I'm excited about with this team is that despite using 6 of the most common fucking Pokemon in the world, with an average base stat total of 580, I personally think I had some unconventional choices and ideas that led to using standard Pokemon in a team that felt like it was something that I put together. And that's what I am excited about. The comments can disagree. They can say this is a bog standard bullshit and Rajan's capping, but I'm pretty happy with the product. Starting with the Landorus, it was a bit of a comfort pick. I don't see that many taunt Landos. Most of them are generally offensive. There was a lot of Scarf at Pittsburgh. I saw Wolfie succeeded with Clear Amulet at Pittsburgh. I saw a lot of iterations of Kyle's Worlds team, which involved Choice Band Landorus. Most Landorus were offensive. But I really enjoyed Taunt Landorus with respect to restricting Amoonguss, restricting Trick Room, and like I said before, setting up positions where I can have like hold Torn, taunt something, save the Torn with Protect, which I'll talk about the Torn in a second, and then you turn into my sweeper like Fluttermane because the board state's a little bit better where I know I can kill something on the board. So those are the moves. If I was going to change a move on the set, it would probably be Rock Slide, and I would probably replace Rock Slide with Protect. But I think Rock Slide's really important considering the number of ground immunes in the format. I'm not going to spend much time talking about EVs because they kind of suck, and I did them a couple hours before the tournament, and I went to bed at like 3 a.m., and it was like a problem. But
I mean, EV training does take a while, so I understand why you went to bed so late.
it does. It really, really, really does. But with the Landorus specifically, it's some attack jump point, and I think that speed lets it like outrun either Jolly or Adamant Urshifu and Tailwind. I couldn't tell you, something like that, or Chi, like what? The Scarf versions. But otherwise, it's like kind of just jump pointy. The Tornadus, however, is really, really, really fucking cool. I think the Leozo team set was spot on. Bleakwind, Tailwind, Sunny Day Protect was perfect, and I didn't feel like I needed Taunt as much because I had Taunt on Landorus as well. Mental Herb, I understand very much so. It didn't proc for me much during the tournament, but it's one of those items that doesn't proc for you because it's on the set, right? People aren't taunting your Mental Herb guy because they don't want to commit 2 turns to doing so unless their team is bad enough to do so, like some of the Reg C, Gyarados teams, which would double taunt Mental Herb things sometimes because they can. The EV spread was phenomenal. The EVs, like just physically defensive torn. First of all, when you're, I want to be setting up manual Sunny Day, and I want to be slower than the manual Rain Dance Tornadoes that are setting up Rain Dance. So slow was absolutely essential. And the moves were great. The Terrastal, like the Terra type Ghost, was really good because it's Mental Herb and not Covert Cloak. So having the Ghost immunity or the Fake Out immunity is cool. I only Terra'd it once, but it was game winning and it won my winning in. But the EVs were fantastic. I believe what the EVs do is they let this Torn outside of Sun take on Adamant, Mystic Water, Terra Water Searching Strikes and live it like 15 out of 16 times. But what it also coincidentally does is just take Adamant Iron Hands Wild Charge. I don't know if it's been rolls every single time, but I took 3 Wild Charges from full health, and the Iron Hands was not intimidated, and I lived every single time, and it was awesome. The Bold Torn was amazing. The special attack stat is to do enough damage with Bleakwind Storm for the Flash Cannon from Heatran, which I'll talk about next to pick up Flutter. But the Torn spread felt perfect. Heatran, I loved this Pokemon. This was the absolute MVP. No, Fluttermane was the MVP of the team, but Heatran carried the team on its back. It was the defensive pivot. It provided a lot of scary situations for common Pokemon. I was positive that the Heatran that I wanted to use was Assault Vest Terra Fairy. Frame 0. That was the Heatran I wanted to use because the whole, like, 2 weeks before the tournament, I just kept, like, maulding about how strong Chiyu Flutter is and not being able to figure out what to beat it. The only thing I could think of that beat it was AV Heatran. Like, in terms of, like, defensively dealing with it. And I really liked Terra Fairy because it helped resist Dark, so it just completely screwed over Chiyu. And then also it resisted fighting, and like I said before, it forced and because of how like physically heavy Heatran is, it doesn't take much from Heavy Slam, which is only 40 base power against it. It forced Iron Hands to Wild Charge Heatran to do meaningful damage against it. The EVs are just to hit a jump point, and then like I don't remember what the speed does. It's a tailwind interaction. One of you is smart enough to figure it out. But it's 4 points slower than Cresselia, or 1 EV point slower than Cresselia, which is relevant for Lunar Blessing, like I talked about. 3 first moves on the Heatran were standard, but I had a period of like I was struggling with the 4th move, and I opted into Solar Beam, which was really really cool and like was really 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 good, instead of Terra Blast on the set. And the reason I opted into Solar Beam and Terra Fairy, I didn't want to be Terra Grass with Terra Blast because again you can Drain Punch that and it's not a Dark Resist. But I also wanted to be able to kill Urshifu all the time, whether or not it Terras, and have a move that hits Terra Water Iron Hands for more damage. You could say, Rajan, why don't you just use Terra Fairy? That way, Terra Blast, you can hit Urshifu. But it Terras, and then you no longer Oko it. And also, I think committing your Terra to do damage is a much more of a resource hog than committing yourself to pressing Sunny Day earlier in the set when that was something you wanted to be doing anyway. So I really like Solar Beam on the set because it gave me like an attack that I can just like lead Torn Heatran into water types and press Sunny Day Solar Beam, and then like they're in a really bad spot, like their Urshifu, or and it really threatens a lot of Terra Ghost, Terra Water Pokemon like Goldingo that might want to Terra Water in front of Heatran, or like Amoonguss. And this doesn't sound like a lot, but it does as much as a Terra Grass Terra Blast does. Which is because Solar Beam's 120 base power, so like it was killing it without losing Flutter Mane in the process. So getting really strong chip into it was really cool. And Heatran was pretty much always able to hit Iron Hand super effectively with Heat Wave when it's Terra Grass, Earth Power when it's normal, or Solar Beam when it's Terra Water. I loved the set. The set was perfect. The Mon was amazing. I'll go to Flutter Mane next. It's just a Specs Flutter Mane. It's as strong as fucking possible. It's that strong because Sunny Day, Terra Fairy, Dazzling Gleam does like Oko's Glass Chiyu, which is really cool. And I don't remember how fast it is. It outruns something. It's probably like base hundreds or something. I don't remember. And then it's a defense dump. I had 20 defense for a reason. I can't tell you why. Misty Terrain is my 4th move of choice. That was a mistake. Not in the team build or anything, but it shouldn't have ended up as Misty Terrain. Misty Terrain was the Flutter Mane that I locked into for Nationals. Really helpful because there was more Psychic Terrain and more things of that nature. But this format, there's just no universe in which you can click that button. It was not helpful. It did not stop Amoonguss at all. And I kind of wish it was Sleep Talk. Urshifu's an Urshifu. That mon's crazy. Terra Dark for more damage. That mon's crazy. Haven't really used Urshifu before. Kind of a good Pokemon. Sick. And Cress was Mon 6. I thought it would help more with Iron Hands, Amoonguss, Landorus, and bulky things like that, and be able to Lunar Blessing my Heatran and be faster than Heatran so Amoonguss doesn't mess with it. So I gave Cresselia goggles, and I just made it Fizdef because it was like 1 o'clock, and I needed to give it an EV spread, and Fizdef was like easier to EV. Just like put all like 252, 252 basically. And gave it goggles. And that's like pretty much every choice on the team. But the combination of factors was really nifty to me, and I'm really happy with some of the tech choices, especially Solar Beam. Solar Beam was super clutch.
And you sent me a version of the team that you said you would run if you had the knowledge you had after the event. Did you want to talk about? You talked about most of the changes, but do you want to go over that real quick?
So I'll talk about the run a little bit, but I discovered a little embarrassingly. So the practice that I did for the tournament ended up being like 6 or 7 ladder games on Showdown the day before, and I lost like 5 of them. And they were like all to Iron Hands, Amoonguss, Ursaluna, and Cresselia most of the time. I'm like, okay, apparently this shit's an auto loss. I can't beat Ursaluna at all with Cresselia and Iron Hands support. Like this mod's broken. So let's dodge it. Was kind of what happened. Because at that point I was like, I have to dodge it. I can't do anything else about it. But I didn't realize by extent, I didn't pick the yellow pill, I just dodged it. But what I didn't realize was part of the reason Ursaluna was so busted was because I kind of actually had issues with Iron Hands Amoonguss, ironically. I'm not like I couldn't do anything about it, right? Like I have a lot of damage on the team and I was able to threatening. I beat it for the most part when I played it, but I lost to Wolf twice, and he was just Iron Hand shrooming me pretty hard. And um, I think if I played more of it during the schedule, during my tournament with more pilots like Wolf, I don't think I would have gone as far as I did. So I was kind of thinking about it, like on the commute home, like what would I've done? And I was thrilled, by the way. I'm very satisfied with the tournament. I finished top 8, really proud of myself, really happy that I did so well with the team that I had and with the practice that I had and with the way I've been, you know, really hard on myself lately about my results, my performances, and my capacity to play at a high level. So I'm thrilled. But I was just thinking about it a little bit more, and I'm realizing we put an alt of mine on the screen. I don't care. Ariana Medium's a funny alt. Um, but I was just thinking about it, like, what would I do differently? And one of the things I would do differently, frankly, is just have a pivot into a Mungus that can actually do something. Cresselia was able to go on the field, but it didn't do anything. And it wasn't actually helping my board states. And Lunar Blessing wasn't as impactful for my team because I had only 2 Pokemon with Protect, and they were Urshifu and Tornadus. And like Specs Flutter's not really getting much value out of it. Lando was like okay, and Heatran actually needed more healing than Lunar Blessing would provide. I liked the idea of taking the Citrus Berry off the Lando and making it safety goggles. And that does a couple important things. It lets me, like, with the mons that I have, like Tornadus or Urshifu, protect and then switch to Lando, which is a really good pivot into Landorus, Iron Hands, and Mungus. Intimidate the Iron Hands, not get spored by the Lando, because sporing me on the switch was really easy for a lot of my other mons. And then have Taunt so I can pivot in other Pokemon without risking Spore. Cresselia wasn't really denying the other Pokemon from getting put to sleep. And because of speed tiers, I didn't really have a window where I was able to attack, like Lunar Blessing, attack, and then get put to sleep outside of Heatran. So it wasn't really as good into dealing with Amoonguss as I thought it was. Because I took the Citrus Berry off of the Landorus, that frees up a Citrus Berry, which naturally, in my opinion, makes Amoonguss Mon 6 feel really perfect. And I would replace Cresselia with it in a heartbeat. I think Citrus Berry, like I said earlier in the video, is just absolutely amazingly better than Rocky Helmet, and I think Amoonguss is broken and needs to heal it. This would do a lot of things. It would give me another Amoonguss switch in, another pivot into Iron Hands, Amoonguss, and like Lando, or just other Pokemon. Another Fairy Resist, which would be really helpful because I was covering. Heatran was really defensively carrying the team on its entire back, and then it would be really cool to be able to redirect Iron Hands instead of always being threatened by Heavy Slam on my Flutter Mane, so I could get off 2 attacks with Flutter Mane instead of 1 a lot of the time, which would be game changing. I don't think I need to be explaining Rage Powder plus Specs Flutter Mane, but my team could have used it extremely effectively, and I really wish I had the option. And then Pollen Puff is just better healing for Heatran. Turns out AV Heatran needs 50% of its healing and not 25%. I think it would round out the team perfectly. And then it would also be a little bit better into Ursaluna as well, because then I could redirect Facade or something along those lines occasionally, and then get off another attack with like. I'm not good into Ursaluna still, but it would help. And then so I think this is how I would change it. And if you're at Barcelona and you're wondering how a player who hasn't done anything particularly well in a while top cut Pittsburgh regionals, and you're looking at the team and think it's kind of cool, these are the changes I would make. I made it an open team sheet because my EVs weren't that important. Oh, the last change was Sleep Talk on Fluttermane. I think that's just a better like bail me out grandpa kind of button than like Misty Terrain is against Amoonguss, because then you can switch it in and then just pray as opposed to switching it in and dying, because pouring a Fluttermane is like killing it, you know? So those are the changes I would make. I actually think this version of the team as shown would be really, really, really good. And not just like good. Like really
Cool.
good. And would be able to cover a lot of the things that I was having problems with before, and really allow a more prepared and better pilot than me really make a run. And I
Yeah,
think
this
this
is my
is what I would
team
do.
actually.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
But if I was able to, if I had another day or two and was able to like actually work out my problems before the tournament, is what I would do. I can't say I'm up, and I'm not in any way begrudging a top 8 finish, but like this is like the version of the team that I think would be really good.
Yeah, I think all the shoes make a lot of sense. I think this team looks really solid, does very powerful things. Um, and I guess on that note, let's talk about your tournament experience itself. Tell me about your tournament
Absolutely.
run.
Sure. So I didn't have high expectations going into the tournament. But I was kind of feeling pretty good the morning of, to be completely honest, despite having negative sleep, having just built my team and lost the majority of the games I had just played with the team. I was feeling pretty good. Because my expectations were so low, I wasn't really gimping myself for the most part. Is that a word I'm allowed to use? I think it is.
Probably.
Um, Whatever. I wasn't like sabotaging my own success. I was like, I'm gonna just play Pokemon. I'm here with my friends. It's a good time. We have an Airbnb. I like the homies and win-win, right? Either I do well or I don't and get to have fun with my friends and not play any more Regulation D, right? Like, frankly, it was a win-win situation. And because I drove to the regional, it wasn't even cost prohibitive for the most part, registration aside. Um, so round one was really funny, and I'm only gonna bring it up because it just like made me I think it set the tone for the rest of the day. I was feeling myself after round one. Not because I had an easy matchup, mind you. It was against a Zine team variant, but because Solar Beam went stupid that set. It was so funny. Because the precise reasons I had for Solar Beam was it kills Urshifu Water and does 45% to Iron Hands when it's Terra Watered. And those things are both important. And Heatran like 1v3'd in a Mungus Urshifu water and Terra Water 45% Iron Hand to win me a game. Because I had Sun Up, I did the Solar Beams well, I killed the Urshifu the way I wanted to, I killed the Iron Hands the way I wanted to, I killed the Hydra. Like, it just felt really good. And at that point, I was feeling myself. I was having a great time. I was like, the Solar Beam went crazy. I didn't know if I'd even get to press the button. It did exactly what I wanted. This is an awesome choice, Rajan. You were a brilliant tactician. That's what happened after round one. It was dope. Um, Round two, I played Chef. BGC had a really cool Trick Room team, and I think my team just had a pretty good matchup into his. He was forced to lead a lot of dedicated setup for Trick Room, and I had a Taunt Landorus. And one thing that's really interesting about AV Heatran over Life Orb for the purposes of dealing with Trick Room is like when you think about Indeedee, uh yeah, that's Chef's team. Adi just put on the screen, but when you think about Indeedee, Armor Rouge, Torkoal, um, Farigarath, or like other common Pokemon that you might expect on like a really hard Trick Room team, um, what's it called? Lilligant, Hisuian, like whatever. When you're thinking about these, and like maybe their own Fluttermane, like when you're thinking about those Pokemon, AV Heatran just beats all of them, right? Like it beats Indeedee, it beats Armor, it beats Torkoal, it just beats all those traditional Pokemon. So outside of Ursaluna, I didn't think you necessarily needed Imprison to deny Trick Room on my team because AV Heatran is a much harder carry than Life Orb Heatran is against Trick Room. Those weren't, but Chef did have Ursaluna. However, I had a Taunt Landorus and an Urshifu Dark. So he kept, like, Chef kept being forced to lead Oranguru Mousehold into me, and I just kept pressing Taunt Wicked Blow into the Oranguru, and Chef kept pressing Follow Me, and then I got my Taunt off on the Mousehold, and then I get the Taunt. Like, I just had a good matchup. And I really liked my Lando. So round one and round two were just like, man, my team's built different. I'm awesome. And I felt really good. Round three, I played Iron Hands, Cresselia, and Ursaluna. I got 2 of Stomped. It was my hardest set of the tournament. Round four, I played Ryan Lassetto, who is a great Canadian player. I think he got finals of a regional last year or something.
Vancouver, yeah.
And I played him and Olivia Maletsky from round seven. They were using the same team, both 3. Um, it was King Gambit, Landorus T, Gastrodon, Rillaboom without Stomping Tantrum, Fluttermane without anything useful, and some other Pokemon. And basically, AV Heatran plus Fluttermane was really good in the matchup. All I had to do was deal with King Gambit. And if I was able to deal with King Gambit, then there really weren't that many resources for them to deal with AV Heatran. And it was just also just proving itself there. Round 5, I played Abdul, who also went 6-3 at the tournament. He had a other form of Tornadus team, but I think I just positioned my Tornadus and my Fluttermane a little bit more effectively. Especially since I had Mental Herb Torn and Abdul had normal Taunt Torn, and just didn't feel like he was able to bring his own Tailwind stuff. So I kind of just outpositioned. But it was a pretty good set. Round 6, I don't remember what that person had. I do actually. It was like 3 choice items, and I had Tailwind offense, so it was kind of good. Talked about round 7 already. Talked about round 8. Round 8 was against, I think he's big chicken, Mr. Chicken,
Sir Chicken.
Senor Chicken. I don't remember, but he's the big one, and he had some Indeedee, Amoonguss, Chiyu, Fluttermane, Urshifu something. I don't know if there's an Urshifu, but like standard good Pokemon. But I was able to outposition my Fluttermane and my damage into his, and having the Assault Vest Heatran once again came in really clutch because it just like defensively handles so many teams and so many Pokemon in the format. And it was basically rounds 1 through 8. I played the matchup that was the hardest for me. I lost, but then I didn't play that matchup, and I was able to execute what I was trying to do with my team, and I was feeling really good about myself. I wasn't feeling like my play was exceptional, but I felt like my day before call for the team was like doing really, really well, and I managed to make it to day 2 by round 8. Cresselia was worthless. I felt like I was playing like up with a 4.5 mon team the entire time. I dodged most of the Iron Hands and Mungus's. And I didn't have to play Ursaluna that often. So like I hit the matchups I had to hit to do well with the team that I had. And I think I had a positive matchup into everybody I played rounds 1 through 8 except for round 3. And that was really, really, really exceptional to feel. So I made day 2. I played my really good friend Aaron Trailer round 9. He made top 4 of the tournament and did really, really well. We had a cool set, but he had a really interesting tech, which was hard for my team to deal with. He had his own AV Heatran, which was kind of which I discovered was difficult to kill. He had Life Orb Urshifu Water, which outran my Torn, so it got to do a pretty strong damage. And he had Icy Wind Cresselia, which was really bad for my team because it's hard for me to actually kill Cresselia unless I'm putting Fluttermane in positions which it can get killed. And if I am doing that to Cresselia, if I can't kill the Cresselia fast enough, it spams Icy Wind. I can't actually switch. And then for a Tornadus team to ultimately get outrun by Scarf Landorus T, which is what his Lando was, that was a really bad combination when my Pokemon were not able to outrun the Choice Scarf Pokemon, which isn't something that normally happens with Cresselia's damaging options. So that felt like a really tough matchup, piloted by an extremely talented trainer. But at that point, I made day 2. I was feeling really good about myself. I started day 2. I had a really, really close set against Wolf round 1. I won game 1 pretty commandingly. Wolf finished in the finals of the tournament, but like I kind of stomped him game 1. Game 2 came down to a reasonably 50-50 endgame, and I was regretting it after the fact because I had I was about like I knew what the options were. I wanted to lock in one thing. I talked myself out of it, and I talked myself out of the winning play into the losing play. But that takes nothing away from Wolf. He piloted very, very well. And the thing that bothered me was I realized I only had 2 games to beat Wolf because he would figure out the matchup and he would lean more heavily into his Iron Hands and his Amoonguss. And like I said earlier in the tournament, if I played more players like Wolf who were using those Pokemon, I don't think I would have done nearly as well as I did. I didn't play that many Iron Hands and Amoonguss throughout the tournament. And then Wolf beat me game 3. And I was pretty bummed about myself because I didn't think we needed to get to game 3 if I was like doing my job better. Um, but he capitalized on small mistakes and I lost. Can you go back to the pairings?
Yeah.
But after that, I kind of just went on a tear and I felt really, really good about myself. I played a friend, Ben Gandolfi. I met him at the Hartford Regionals. We sat on a bus together. He was playing a Pokemon on his Game Boy Micro, and we had a conversation. It was really cool to see him do as well as he did at the tournament. He finished top 32. He was using a Tailwind team as well, and we went to 3 games, and I think I just outpositioned him pretty heavily game 3. I played Justin Knox round 12, 45 mice, and he is really riding high off of a top cut at U.S. Nationals or at the North American Internets recently. And he was running a really scary Tailwind Sunny Day team as well with Specs Fluttermane as well. Or excuse me, Specs Chiyu, I think. And he had a lot of scary threats. I don't remember the game particularly well, but it was game 3 came down like I made a hard read turn 1 that he was gonna blast my not Landorus slot, switch the not Landorus slot into Heatran, and then U-turned with my Landorus slot, and that was a really positive position to be in, and I was able to take that to a win. Round 13, I played Dendozo for the first time, and I just think my matchup was pretty positive, and I won. Round 14, I played George Tiverman. Neither of us thought we were able to top cut at this point because our resistances weren't that good. He was using a rain team. I don't remember if it's like a notable rain team or not, but he bought me game 1 because I really heavily by setting up Trick Room with his nasty plot for Rigorath and swept me with it. But then at the conclusion of game 1, I realized I made some crucial mistakes in interpreting the team sheet, including that his Iron Hands did not have Heavy Slam, which I did not read properly. It was Volt Switch Iron Hands, and that there's one other positive thing with Iron Hands, Specskull, Dingo, Tornadus, Pelipper, Scar for Shifu Water, and something. Oh, and the other discovery that I had misread was that his Pelipper did not have Tailwind. And with the newly equipped with like my newly found reading glasses, I was able to position my offense into him game 2. And then game 3, I got to Terrastalize the Tornadus for the first time all set and managed to beat his Tornadus, Goldengo, and Pelipper with my Heatran and Sun because Solar Beam plus Flash Cannon kills Pelipper. Those were all the games. I hope I didn't go into them too deeply. It was just a run that I was feeling really good about. The quality of my play for the most part, I made some small mistakes, but most of them were reading mistakes as opposed to comprehension mistakes. And that felt really good because I have not really felt like I have been a particularly good player for a number of years and have been really, really, really hard on myself. And then at that point, I was 11-3 at the tournament. I was really, really excited, but I was confident, beyond confident, I did not top cut the tournament because I started 0-1 and I played a pair down at some point. So I wasn't even caring. I was just like talking to my friends, having a good time. I wasn't paying attention to res or standings or anything. My friends, Adi included, were talking about res and standings and things. I'm like, shut up. I don't care. I'm chilling. It happens or it doesn't. Like, I was having a great time. Then I slipped into 8th place. I got handily destroyed by Wolf in top 8. He figured out the matchup, and I couldn't recover off that. And that was my top cut at the Pittsburgh Regionals. I had a great time. Great tournament. Really enjoyed the setting, and the staff was excellent, but I did not go into it expecting the top cut, and I am beyond grateful and thrilled that I did.
Yeah, you had a great run with a very cool team. Definitely recommend that you try it out. And we got a rental code. We got a rental because everyone had to submit a rental code. So
We did have to do that.
Barcelona
And
begrudgingly.
if you do try it out, I really heavily recommend considering the the proposed changes. Again, use whatever EVs you want. You can rip EVs from the main bin, which is shown on the channel, and do whatever you want. But I would really recommend these changes. I think this makes the team a lot better, a lot more cohesive, and gives you more options.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want to try this team out, highly recommend it. Solar Beam Heatran, very very cool innovation, lots of really cool sets, and yeah, definitely would recommend trying out the changes as well, especially if you're looking at looking for a team for the Barcelona regionals coming up this weekend. Um, if Roshan can cut with half a day of practice with a team, surely you with 4 days of practice can also top cut.
And honestly, not to like take your joke and like expand it into something bigger, but like this is a really important run to me, for basically that reason. I've had a lot of shots on goal lately. I've been playing a lot. I've been feeling really down about, not being able to build standard that I've set for myself, not being able to make teams at the standard I've set for myself. I never considered myself to be a particularly good button clicker, but I definitely have considered myself to be an above average button clicker, and didn't even feel like I was doing that at the standard that I had set for myself. And it was spiraling kind of hard, especially with the realization that as I've aged, I can take time off to attend events, but I can't take time off to practice events. And that, like, it's really been snowballing in a way that's been unpleasant and has just detracted from my feeling of satisfaction within the game. And seeing that I can use good Pokemon in interesting-ish ways. Again, fight me as much as you want about the innovations involved or whatever. Like, I don't care about any of that. But it felt like a team I built as opposed to I found and used. And that's really important to my feelings of satisfaction. I was able to merge my feelings of satisfaction with using the Pokemon that are very, very common, which hasn't really happened much before, and was able to pilot that to a run I wasn't expecting, and has been able to show myself that, maybe I didn't have to play exceptionally. Maybe I did get a lot of favorable matchups, but those favorable matchups happened because of the team decisions I made, and I did what I had to do to win the favorable matchups anyway. And that just really has been a real, like, positive moment for a time where I have not been excited about my own playing capacity. And I'm really thrilled that I got to be here to talk about my team with you all, that I got to have the tournament experience that I did, and that I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be back on the channel soon.
I sure hope so. I hope after Toronto, you're right back on. Ignoring the fact that you're going to be on the channel again tomorrow for Tub Takes, where we talk even more about Pittsburgh regionals. So,
That's true.
yeah, you will literally be on the channel real soon, even though we're recording this after Tub Takes. But yeah, thank you again for coming on the channel. Congratulations again on your run. I'm really, really happy for you. I'm glad that you are still capable of doing this. I knew you had it in you as soon as you stopped using base 480 BST Pokemon.
Like Amoonguss. The best part, though, of all of this is Adi gets to finally just shut the fuck up. Because
I
this
will
man
never
has
shut the
been
fuck
so
up.
smug. He has been so smug in his own mediocrity that, like, every conversation, every time his dumbass is proposing something stupid, the response and rebuttal is, when's the last time your ass top cut a regional? When's the last time you top cut a
That's
regional?
not how I remember those
Whatever,
conversations.
whatever, whatever.
Normally those conversations are
This is
you
my
suggest something
video.
stupid.
This is my video, not yours.
It's my
So
video too. It's my channel.
my narrative is what gets propagated here. And under these circumstances, Adi says some dumbass thing. I attack him with, facts and logic, as one does, and then he says, when's the last time you top cut a regional? Because in my day, I top 64 in an online tournament or something like that. I don't really know what Adi's done in his life.
All I'm saying is usually the conversation starts with you suggesting some shitmon that we use, and then you get really offended when I tell you it's bad, and then I have to bring up that you haven't done anything good because you keep using shit mons. Now here you are using good Pokemon and doing well, and I'm really happy for you. But with
Shout outs
that,
to fellow friends in Tub and everyone that was really excited that I put on a run and put on a show. I do appreciate. I didn't really put on a show. I wasn't on stream a single time. Um, you know what? The only sets that I could have been on stream, I lost, so I'm kind of glad I wasn't. So
well,
thank you,
you
everybody.
you
And the
convinced.
region itself was run phenomenally. Really, the staff, the judges, the whole event was truly perfect. We were out day one by 6 p.m. Day two ran on time. Day one ran on time. It was a really well run event.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming to the channel again. Really appreciate it. Congratulations again on your performance. And yeah,
Thank you so much.
until next time, I'll see you
We'll go
all
here.
later.
Thank you and welcome to the channel.